Hello students, myself Saurabh Palekar, biology faculty from JNPU College. In today's practical, we'll be studying certain specimens right from the phylum Arthropoda till the Echinodermata. So the part 1 was the specimens which we have already studied right from Porifera till the Annelida. So this is the second part wherein you will be studying the invertebrates right from the Arthropoda till the Echinodermata. So we'll study certain specimens here. Moving on to the first specimen under the phylum Arthropoda, it is a Pelemon species. Okay, so these Pelemon species are also called as a prawn. Moving on to its systematic position, it belongs to kingdom Animalia, the phylum Arthropoda, the class Crustacea, and the type specimen is the Pelemon, or it's commonly called as a prawn. Now, looking at its morphology, or you can say looking at its characteristics, the prawn is a multicellular. Okay, it is bilaterally symmetrical, means from both the sides it is having a proper symmetry. Okay, and they are commonly found in marine water. Yet some of the other species of these crustacea members, they are also found in fresh waters. But these prawns are usually most commonly found in marine water. Looking at its body, the body is elongated, bilaterally compressed, covered by chitinous exoskeleton. Okay, so this chitinous exoskeleton is one of the peculiar characteristics of Arthropoda member. Then the body, okay, if you observe, it has the the head and thorax region which is been merged, and it is called as cephalothorax. Okay, so the cephalothorax is found by fusion of head and thorax region, which is covered by a shield. Okay, so a shield in the sense some kind of protective layer is present above it. So that protective layer is called as a carapace. Okay, and this carapace towards the anterior, means towards the mouth part, towards the front part of it gets extended. It is called as a rostrum. Okay, so this is a pointed structure which is called as rostrum. Then a pair of stalk compound eyes are going to be present here. So these eyes which is there, it is nothing but a compound eye, so that it can observe its predators at a farther distance itself, so that it can have a chance to escape itself. Then looking at its cephalothorax, so almost like 13 segments, okay, they have been joined and they are going to be formed the cephalothorax. Okay, and the it consists of almost like 13 pairs of jointed appendages. So these are the jointed appendages which are going to be present, or which are almost 13 in pairs. Then moving on to its abdomen part. So abdomen, it is six. Okay, it's six segmented, and the last segment which is there, it is slightly pointed. Okay, and it is called as a talson. Okay, now the first five segments of this abdomen which is there, they bear the legs. Okay, those are nothing but a swimming legs, also called as pleopods. Okay, so these are nothing but the periopods are nothing but walking legs, and these are pleopods are nothing but a swimming legs. Okay, now these five segments of this abdomen, they have five pairs of what we say, the pleopods. Okay, and the end part, okay, so and the sixth segment which is there, they bear the uropod, okay, which is little broader in structure. Okay, for maybe for maintaining for its body inside the water during time of swimming. So that completes your the Pelemon species. Moving on to the next specimen under the Arthropoda itself. The type specimen here is the silkworm. The scientific name of silkworm is Bombyx mori. So the silkworms are of different types. Okay, as per the type of food the silk moth eat, okay, or the caterpillars feed on. So they are of different types, like the Muga silk, Tassar silk, and like this there are different types. Okay, so this type of silkworm is a mulberry silkworm which feeds on mulberry leaves. Okay, now if you observe the life cycle of a silkworm, okay, you will see the life cycle is they emerge from the egg. Okay, the eggs are eggs will eventually hatch into the larvae. The only purpose of larvae is to continuously feed on the leaves of a mulberry. Without any mulberry, it does not survive on other leaves. Okay, compulsory requires a mulberry leaves itself. So, especially as far as Bombyx mori is concerned, then these larvae eventually grow to certain size. So when they are born, they are almost like 1 to 2 mm in size, but eventually it leads into the growth of almost like 5 to 6 centimeters or maybe more, up till 8 centimeters in size. Then once the larvae are larger in size, okay, they get start spinning the what is it, silk thread around itself, and they form a cocoon. So inside cocoon there will be some what we say, modification within the cells, like histolysis and histogenesis we call. Okay, histolysis means whatever the caterpillar body cells are present, they get undergo disintegration, and a new cells are new type of cells and new structure is going to be formed. So that is a histolysis and histogenesis which we call. So inside you will find, if you break open this cocoon, you will find a pupa inside. Okay, but if you don't break open, if the cocoons are just kept as it is, after a certain period of time, yeah, this the pupa eventually gets changed into this adult moth. Okay, so the adult moth, they won't feed on anything now, so only their purpose is to mate and lay the egg. Okay, so the females and males are can be distinguished, they exhibit sexual dimorphism. And once the eggs are laid, it completes its life cycle. So that means the female and the male, they complete their life cycle. So these eggs will be again continuing the next generation. This is how the lifespan of a silk moth will be. So now we'll study the systematic position and characteristics of this Bombyx more. Okay, so it belongs to kingdom Animalia, phylum Arthropoda, because it has a jointed appendages. Then the class Insecta, the type specimen is Bombyx mori. Okay, so it's commonly called as a silkworm. Now moving on to its characteristics, if you observe the life cycle, the silk moth will be having first the egg, then the caterpillar, then a cocoon stage. Actually, within the cocoon you will find the pupa, and finally the adult stage. Okay, so the silk moth, it's a multicellular triploblastic animal and are nocturnal. Means they come out only during time of night. The body color is creamy white. Okay, so this is what is considered to be creamy white in coloration, and and the body is divided into head, thorax, and abdomen. Okay, so this is the head part. So here you will find a thorax region wherever the legs, jointed legs, and the wings are present, and next comes the abdomen. So a pair of compound eyes and the antenna is present on the head region. So this is a compound eyes, and the antenna, the antennas are feathery. They are smaller in size and they are feathery. They are present in the head region. In the thorax region, you'll find three pairs of jointed legs and two pairs of wings. Okay, so the abdominal segments are continuous with the thoracic. So it's not like you cannot easily distinguish between the thorax and the abdomen region, but the distinguishment can be done based on the presence or absence of jointed legs and the wings. So the entire body the entire body as well as the wings, they are covered by very microscopic scales. Some small feathery scales are going to be present on the entire body, including the wings. Then the life cycle, obviously they contain four stages. First is the egg stage. Okay. Next is the caterpillar stage, also called as the larval stage, or also called as 5 instar stage. Then comes the pupal stage, or also called as the cocoon stage. Okay, so inside will be the pupa, outside it will be wrapped by a silk thread, and it forms a cottony mass like ball-like structure. So it's what is called as a cocoon. Once that is done, once it undergoes any metamorphosis, then only it is going to end into adult stage. Okay, but before moving into the adult stage, people, for sake of extracting the silk fiber, these cocoons are thrown into a boiling water. So eventually the pupa gets dyed inside, and this silk fibers which is there, the silk thread gets separated, and that will be used for various ornamental utilized, like silk for production of silk sarees and all. Okay, so this is all about a Bombyx more. The next arthropodan specimen we are going to study is the Apis indica, also called as honeybee. So honeybees, you commonly find honeybees everywhere, but these honeybees are of different species. They come under different types, different categories. But most common type you find in India is Apis indica. Okay, so it's a common Indian honeybee. Yet you will find certain honeybees are imported from the abroad, like from Europe, and it's called as Apis mellifera. Okay, and there are certain small honeybee called as Apis dorsata. So like this, there are different species of honeybees, but as far as human economic use is concerned, like for as a wax and honey sake is concerned, definitely Apis indica is most commonly used, and even the European honeybee, that is Apis mellifera, is utilized. So let us study the systematic position and characteristics in detail. The systematic position of the Apis indica, it belongs to kingdom Animalia. The phylum Arthropoda, because it has a jointed body, and the body is jointed, and it belongs to the class Insecta. So it's an insect, and these honeybees, they play a very important role in the environment. Okay, so especially the pollen transfer. Okay, so they help in transfer of pollens from one plants to another, and thereby continuation of the generation of the plants. And indirectly, they also help the humans and other animals. Okay, so if these honeybees have been eradicated, definitely the both entire almost like 60% of the angiospermic plants are going to face a problem, because most of the pollination are meant because of honeybees. Now looking at its characteristics, the honeybees, it is a social insect. Why it is social insect? Because it lives in a colony. So this is its colony. We call them as bee hive. Okay, and if you look at the closely, if you observe this colony, you'll find three types of honeybees in them. So one will be the queen, okay. Second will be the workers, and third will be the drones. Okay. Now we'll study the honeybees in common. Okay. And then we'll study each honeybee in detail, like how the queen appears, how the workers appear, and how the drones appear. So first, let us look at the normal body structure of the honeybee. So the body is divided into three distinct regions. That is, this is the head, okay. Then this is the thorax, and this is the abdomen. You can clearly identify which is the head, which is the thorax region, and which is the abdominal region. So the head is slightly triangular in shape. So there is a pair of compound eyes which is present on the either side, and almost towards the middle of the head, okay, towards the top, you will find there are three small ocelli. Okay, so there are three small oval to round shaped dots. You are going to observe it. So these ocelli, some of the scientists, they claim that it is just a simple light detector. Okay, light detector in the sense it's not simple light, so it helps in identifying the light of a daylight of for the honeybees. Okay, whereas the compound eyes can be used for observing at the farther distances. Clear? The mouth parts are present ventrally on the head. So towards the lower side, towards the ventral side, the mouth parts are going to be present. Okay. The thorax consists of three segments. That is, it is divided into three types. One is called as prothorax. Then middle is mesothorax, and the one which is behind is metathorax. Okay. So one pair of jointed legs is present on each thoracic segment. Okay, so that means if you look at the thorax region, you will find the three pairs of legs are going to be jointed legs are going to be present. Then the abdomen is six segmented. Okay, so if you count the number of abdomens here, it is going to have a six segments. Okay, so this completes the characteristics of honeybee in general. Now let's study the characters of each honeybee. How you can distinguish which one is a queen, which one is a drone, and which one is a worker. Okay, so like if in future if you want to undergo this apiculture farming, okay, like rearing of honeybees, then definitely you should know which honeybee to handle. Okay, So let's study the structure, morphological, how they are distinct. So if you observe the workers, okay, so these are the workers, these will be the queens, and these will be the drones. If you observe the workers are nothing but they are unfertile females. That means they are sterile females and they're little smaller in size. So in outside whatever the honeybees, if you observe, all of them are nothing but the females which are workers. Okay, and they are sterile. So their only function is the pollination and collection of the nectar as well as construction of the beehive. That is because they have a wax gland within them. That means the abdominal segment they have a wax gland which is present ventrally. Okay, on the four posterior abdominal segments, and they help in production of the wax for during time of building up of their beehive. Then they also possesses a sting, okay, so that they can defend their colony. Okay, so the sting is present at the end of this last abdominal segment, and one of the most peculiar thing is the sting is connected with its digestive gland. Okay, it is in continuous with the digestive gland of that particular worker. So what happens is if that honeybee stings, that completes its life cycle, because if that worker honeybee stings any person or animal, definitely when it get while detaching, the sting may gets broken, and even the digestive tract comes out with the honeybee of outside of the honeybee's body. So that's how the it loses its lifespan there itself. Okay, then these the legs of this particular worker honeybees, they have certain pollen pouches, okay, in which the pollens are going to be collected. Some basket like structures are going to be present. Okay, then looking at its queen, okay, the queen is a fertile, the only female who can lay the eggs. Okay, so they are larger in size, sorry, they are larger in size. The abdomen, it is long and tapering. If you observe this abdominal region, so this abdominal region is very long and tapering. Then the wings and legs are small, and they don't have wax gland because their only function is to lay the eggs. Okay, so they are not since they don't perform any other activity, these they don't have any wax gland or any sting. Okay, so then moving on to the another member of this colony, those are nothing but drones. So drones are nothing but the males. Okay, so the males are larger than the workers but smaller than the queen. Okay, with respect to the size. Then the wax glands are absent, and uh, the wax glands are absent in the abdominal segment here. Okay, so the drones and the queens will be continuously within their hives. They won't leave their hive. Only the workers they migrate to various other areas, and they help in collection of the nectars, and indirectly they help in transfer of pollens from one flower to another. The next specimen is nothing but Phyla globosa. So Phyla belongs to mollusca member. Okay, mollusca phylum. So moving on to its systematic position, it belongs to kingdom Animalia, phylum Mollusca, class Gastropoda, and the type specimen is Phyla globosa, commonly called as apple snake. The characteristics, if you observe, the phyla is a multicellular organism having a true coelom. That means they are eucoelomate, and they are found in shallow fresh water. Okay. Now the body is protected by very hard spiral coiled shell. Okay. The opening of the shell, it is covered by calcareous plate. So the opening, if you observe, there will be a calcareous uh, plate like structure, which is what we call as operculum. Then the body is soft. Okay, since they have a soft body, that's why they are called as molluscans. Okay, the body is soft, consisting of four regions. One is the head, then the foot, visceral mass, and mental. Okay, so the phyla moves with the help of its muscular foot. So this is what is a peculiar characteristic of the phyla globosa. Next is the last phylum of the invertebrates, that is the Echinodermata. The type specimen is the starfish. The scientific name is the Asterias species. Okay, So the genus is Asterias, which we'll be studying. So looking at its systematic position, uh, the starfish, it comes under kingdom Animalia, phylum Echinodermata, class Asteroideae, and type specimen is Asterias species. Okay, so the starfish, they come under different types. Okay, other than the starfish, we'll also find other the brittle fish and all. Okay, so they have a little bit specular characteristic. Okay, so let us study that. Okay, so moving on to its characteristics. So this is how the starfish is going to be visible under formalin. Okay, under as a specimen. So this is in its natural condition. Okay, so the starfish, they are usually marine. They commonly marine only, and so they appear pentamerous, like star-shaped structure, hence the term starfish is given. Okay, and the body is radially symmetrical. So if you cut this starfish in any angle, it forms two equal half. Hence the term radially symmetry. Then it is muscular and true coelomate. Okay, having a true coelom. Then the body has a central disc with 5 tapering arms which are covered by spiny skin. Okay, so there is a central disc which is going to be present. Okay, and there are 5 arms. Then the entire body surface bears numerous small sized blunt protuberance. Okay, and the lower surface is called a oral surface. Okay, so it's the lower surface which is there. This is the lower surface. It is called as oral surface, whereas the opposite of this lower surface, that is towards the upper surface, is called as aboral surface. Oral and aboral surface. So it is called as lower surface because the mouth is situated towards the lower side. Okay. Then the radiating from the mouth, there are 5 grooves. So 5 grooves, in the sense you can observe this 5 depressions. That is also called as the 5 grooves, which has been called. So these grooves are called as ambulacral groove. Okay, so these grooves are called as ambulacral grooves, which contain 5 arms of uh, which contain 5 arms on the oral side, and this locomotion is by means of a tube feed. So these grooves will be having tube-like structures, okay, which is coming upward. They help in movement of the food towards the mouth region, as well as they also help in migration of that particular starfish from one area to another. So this completes your Asterias species. So eventually, this completes the second part of the practical, that is study of external morphology in animals. Okay. So the next part, that is part 3, will be dealt with the vertebrates. Okay, all the chordata members.